automation is really changing the food services industry. I'm happy to have Al-Beik here with me, the founder and CEO of Wings. Thanks for being with me here today.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting times.
Yes, most certainly. And actually a lot of focus has been on the food services industry, through this past year, and can we be inside for dining and all of that kind of thing. So we're seeing a rapid change as it is with the food service industry. So let's start kind of big picture first. Automation, how's this being worked in, robots, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, it's very clear. This year and the year before obviously has been quite tough for the services industry to try to go back to what it was, quote unquote, normal. So we started even before all of that. And we really looked into the service industry saying, okay, this is an industry that really hasn't really leaped forward in innovation for quite some time. You look at different industries like Silicon Valley or the manufacturing industry, and they're way ahead. I think of the service industry as like the middle child. It's essentially borrowing tech from big sister, big brother, but doesn't quite really work really well most of the time. What we really needed is essentially a reinvention, a rethinking in the service industry where we are today to kind of wonder, okay, if we start from the beginning, what do we as people? The service industry is about people first and foremost. What is it that we want at the end of the day? Essentially, services is right there in the middle of life. It is literally in our daily lives, whether it's for food, whether it's for massage, whether it's for fixing your car, it is there to enhance our lives. But it now seems to be more like a bottleneck in our lives. So we started looking in this very early on, and we wanted to understand it from the people's perspective. And what we have realized from the beginning is that technology was always considered first and then seen how it needs to be applied to people. We are taking this a whole different perspective. We start with the people first, and then we look at technology if it even matters, or we have to reinvent something from scratch. So automation and robotics seems to be a knee-jerk reaction sometimes, where we can see now a lot of restaurants today considering replacing people directly with one robot for every single person. That is where actually technology comes first before people. We are taking this in a whole different aspect, a different perspective, while still thinking about robotics and automation.
And that would be, obviously one of the things, Hytham, that people get concerned about is taking jobs and what's going to happen to jobs, and are robots replacing everything. And obviously that's not the case, and we hear so much about with AI and things like that, no, it will take some of those repetitive things and people can do more specialized stuff. So talk about, exactly how the automation is coming in and what will it be replacing?
It's a very good question. The thing that we looked at this, when we looked at people first, these are artists. These are creative people from the beginning, right? The last thing they want people to do is have labor tasks, repetitive tasks day in, day out, which kind of kills creativity for the most part. So really, when we want to talk about replacing jobs or, take away a certain aspects of the industry, but really what we want to do is elevate the industry, is that we want more of the same people to be more creative rather than more laboring. And essentially, even today, you go to any modern restaurant, you still have somebody cutting the tomatoes in the morning to prep for their dinner, for example, or for their menus that are coming up during the day. These are certain tasks that essentially is done repetitive all the time. We can bring in technology to essentially enable the artist, the creative, to say, hey, can you be creative every day? Can you truly be creative every single day? So what does an artist and a creative person need? A canvas. Can you imagine a painter going in and creating the paints every morning just to paint? Right. No, they just want to paint. So similarly, a chef or anybody else who have ideas to do so, let's allow the technology to enable you, to enhance you so that your creative levels go up. And that's how we see it. And we don't see it as a replacement. We see it as an opportunity, a new idea of what a service industry is about.
And when you talk about, the service industry, how receptive are they?
It's right now, it feels like they need anything at this point. They're jumping onto, there's a lot of reaction to, and we see that already. We see, for example, certain companies bringing robotics, and they're very niche kind of solutions like, I'll do coffee for you. I'll do a blender drink for you. I'll do something for you. It's a single arm robot that comes in and essentially came from the industrial manufacturing industry. And to me, this is another borrowed tech. It's not something that it's meant for cars to build big equipments, not to, can you imagine a huge machine in front of you just to make it full espresso? So this is kind of where we are in the situation, taking a lot of space in my way rather than actually enhancing my life. So when we looked at this, we realized, okay, yes, robots need to come in. Got it. Automation needs to come in. Great. But not at the price of me, not the price of the people, not the price of children. And in many ways, those robots coming in are actually guarded in a way because they're not meant to be near humans. Well, the service industry is all about people. Why is this even here? So we had to go back and rethink about all of this and say, okay, what would be the receptivity of a service industry to technology? It hasn't been good to them. Let's just be fair. It hasn't been quite good to them at this point in time. So for something to be receptive to them is to bring in people from the services industry to start building this with us. We're not a bunch of just engineers and robotics sitting down trying to invent the best robot. No, we have baristas. We have people who are from the service industry sharing their own experiences. For God's sakes, I threw myself in a restaurant in the middle of COVID just to understand, to manage it, to clean the floors, to cut the tomatoes, to do the barista work, to understand truly what is it that's missing? What is it that is inherently cannot be removed when you just suddenly put a robot in? So when we start bringing that in, and when they realize it's about enhancing themselves in creative effort, they're more than happy to look into it and be participant into this kind of mission that we're in.
Very good. And talk a little bit about, the tech involved here. I mean, obviously a lot behind the scenes going on.
Yes, I was a lot behind. I mean, any engineer would love our soup of tech. We actually dabbled a lot in artificial intelligence and crypto and blockchain and robotics and things like that. Not because they are cool, but they're highly emerging technology. Even energy. Energy is so important to us as well in terms of resources used to create something. So let's talk about our sweet and technology that we like. So we had to realize that the robotics in the industry today, if it had to be reinvented from the services industry, what would that be like? And what we created is something we call hive robotics. So the best way to kind of compare that to the current robotics, essentially today there's an arm robot. Essentially, it's a robot that's made of multiple joints. It's a multi-axis. It can have multiple different directions, could be 2-axis, 3-axis, for whatever they need to be. But essentially, it's limited in many aspects in one way. First, it's only arm length because it's literally an arm. And number two, it is very, very heavy. It's industrial, and you can have different versions of those, which means also the space it acquires is very tiny unless you have other arms coming in and trying to help one another. So what end up happening is now this idea of replacing a person with a robot shows that you're not fundamentally stepping back and looking at the big picture of resources coming in, product coming out. What needs to happen here needs to be completely rethought, which is internal logistics, external logistics, how ingredients are stored, how much space are you actually taking? As you know, in retail and in food industry, square footage and space is highly, highly valuable. Next thing you know, you want instead of an espresso machine that takes this much space, you have a robot that takes 10 times the space to do the same thing. We're going backwards. We're not going forward. So now we're talking about food that's coming from the top rather than taking any space in front of you so you're free to roam. We're talking about robots that are not physically connected together. Instead, they're small hive robots that go around. They're autonomous on their own. They have certain tasks they need to do. Some of them, they go cleaning. Some of them, they make sure that the ingredients are in a good shape. Some of them are going to deliver. Some of them will come together to create a certain task for a certain person. So the reason we had to go through this is because the restaurant industry or the services industry is the input, is a bunch of people coming in. You have no idea when they're going to come. You have no idea what they want. You have no idea when they want the results, the food they wanted. In the manufacturing setup in an industry, you already have that calculated. The robots are ready to go. They know what's coming out. Well, how do you do this here when you have random people coming in and out and you want to deliver on time, clean, safe, and accurate, but most important, personalized? This is the other thing that we are very, very adamant about is that we don't look at a group of people. We look at you as one person, and each person is our addressable market, not a group of people, because one person has allergies, has certain conditions, has certain ways they want to deliver the food. So these are facts that we take number one before we jump in and just plug in any tech that we want. So this Hive robots are there to make sure that they are there to serve you the best way possible. Even if you go, we have set up where you go in, sit at a table, and the Hive robots know where you are. They will deliver food to you. But let's say you change your mind, you go to another table because, the view is better. They know. They go back and they go deliver to the new table, right? They're there to make sure you are focused on your own life. And we're there to disappear, honestly. We don't want to be in front of you. We're there just when you need us. And if you don't, we're not there anymore. And that's, I think, what the service industry are more receptive about. And if you want to connect with people, now you can. You don't have a person running around trying to make things sure is managed. You don't have a manager that's worried about when he's going to get the next broccoli tomorrow. And this is the issue that we're seeing in the service industry, too much stress and not too much living.
Very good. And in closing, and you did touch on this a good bit, but and restaurant, I guess my question would be, how did you get to this point? Like what made you all realize the restaurant industry or the service industry, food service, is stressed, or they're at a breaking point because of this, and this? I mean, how'd you get here?
To me, I always about people, and it's always about making sure people are happy with whatever they do. Service industry was my daily life. I have first thing in the morning is an espresso coffee with a nice croissant. That's how I start my day. And I always ask the people working there how they're feeling, how things are going. And if you look at the services industry, even the restaurants for that matter, it's not a, killer. There's no killer product. There's no killer restaurant in terms of, wow, this is changing the industry. Last time that was in McDonald's when they questioned everything. They had to invent new materials, change the logistics, change the menu, change how you even deliver everything. And they really did it because they know the necessity and the cost, the margins is too much. We have issues with labor costs and how much you can pay for people. Again, because restaurants are not making money anyway. The business model needs to change. It is time for that. And to be honest, what we think of restaurants, I see it in the future will start changing. Whether you are focusing on the to-go market, whether it's a dine-in experience where you're driving through to pick something up. So I'll share this with you that, we haven't for a while, but this is what we're focusing on. The first step that we're going to go into is the to-go market. And the to-go market is essentially where people, the last thing they want is to be disrupted in the middle of where they need to go, which means they need to go somewhere, pick something up, and then they go, right? Typically, the best one they have right now is a vending machine, right? The vending machine or a kiosk with no person, essentially you pay something, you pick it up and you go. But that is not an experience that we want. How about a food that's made for you? Literally right there, personalized to you, and still not to go, but on the go, real time. And you come in, it comes down, you pick it up, and you go. That's our first entry to the market. It's the new opportunity to start there and to kind of easy for people to start accepting the robotics in their life.
Well, no doubt it's a changing and exciting industry, really.
It is. Yes,
yeah,
indeed, it is. And definitely. I would add, though, also that bringing that to the services industry, you get exposed to robotics more in our daily lives. People think of robots, they see them in manufacturing. Now you see kids and people who are like, wow, I want to be part of this. I want to learn how we can further serve other people, because everybody should be served equally, no matter what your conditions are, whatever it is. So this will inspire a new set of revolution to enhance and elevate the service industry in terms of education, in terms of technology, in terms of logistics, in terms of many things. So this is a huge opportunity from where we see.
Very good. Well, Haitham, I certainly appreciate you sharing with us here today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Most definitely. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for watching. For much more, make sure you check out TechRepublic.